Hey, what's going on, guys? So, I have two kind of topics to talk about today. The first one being the title of this video, Etsy canceled me. No, that's not clickbait. I'm no longer allowed to sell on Etsy anymore. And the next topic is going to be about what to expect from this channel and PMP Creations as my business going forward. So, let's talk about the juicy stuff, the Etsy cancellation, because I know that's why most of you probably clicked on this video. So, about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago, I was mid Christmas rush. Christmas is my busiest time of the year. Obviously, everybody wants gifts and toys and all that sort of stuff for their loved ones. And I got an email one morning from Etsy basically saying that they had permanently suspended my shop and that I was able to submit an appeal, but it was more than likely that my shop was closed and that I'm no longer allowed to sell on Etsy. That means I can't open up another shop. Even if it was a different shop from selling 3D printed items, I am no longer allowed to sell on Etsy. I'd have to go through like somebody else to sell on Etsy. Which is very disheartening. You know, I spent 4 years, 4.5, almost 5 years of my life building that Etsy shop and really building it up. I'm a 5-star seller, which if you guys don't know what that is, it's basically you're ranked on your shipping times, your communication with your customers, and the rating of your items. And I had 5 stars on all of those. You know, everybody that had bought from my shop, minus a few people here and there, really loved the items. I had great reviews, great sales. And within the blink of an eye or the sending of an email, that was all gone, like it never happened. And you would think, you know, I don't work with my own IPs. You know, I work with inspired stuff from things that I grew up from my childhood, mostly a lot of video game stuff. But it wasn't even closed because of that. It was closed because Etsy doesn't prohibit the selling of weapons of any kind now, it seems like, even if it's just cosplay stuff or props or decor or anything like that. They put a label over everything and consider it a weapon. You know, I have a few items here that, like, I don't know about you guys, but I don't really consider these weapons. So this is a block revolver, doesn't have a trigger, doesn't shoot, you know, there's no barrel or anything like that. We have even some of the bigger stuff like this. It's just a bunch of shapes. It's cylinders and squares and rectangles. There's no trigger. You can see, obviously, it doesn't shoot. Can't have any projectiles. There's nothing in the forefront of it. You know, anybody with more than 2 brain cells, I think, can determine that these are not actual weapons that can hurt anybody or anything like that. But because I didn't put an orange tip on the front of it, my items were delisted, and then I'm guessing I got too many delistings, which Etsy also isn't very clear about. Like, hey, you can only get this number of delisted items and then we permanently suspend your shop. I think they could be better about their terms of service and give a definitive number. Don't just be willy-nilly with this stuff, because even something like this where it's like, yeah, this could definitely, I think, if you glanced at it on the street or something like that, you could consider this to be a weapon. But when you look at it close, again, there's a circle, like cone, cylinder, you know, square, half cylinder, or whatever you want to say. Like, this is like, if you look at it for more than 2 seconds, you know that this isn't a actual physical weapon. Now, you could probably, for these are from GoldenEye and 64. These look a little bit more weapon-esque. I can understand this not having an orange tip, but again, like, nothing in the barrel. Barrel's closed off. There is a little square trigger, but doesn't move, can't shoot. And then same with the golden gun, the low poly golden gun. Like, really? It's a bunch of squares and 1 cylinder on the front. Come on. I don't know. I feel like Etsy's using this AI, and I'm not completely against AI. I'm not one of those artists who are like, oh, AI, all AI is bad and all that stuff. But when it comes to stuff like this, where you can clearly tell that a physical human being isn't looking at these listings, they're having AI sift through all the listings to determine whether something is a weapon or not a weapon, and it's clearly not working. I think Etsy needs to improve on, one, their communication across the board. Me trying to communicate and talk to them about my shop being closed and why I think it was wrongfully closed, I could only email them. I had to wait on the emails back. I had to wait on the appeal. There was no phone numbers to call. I actually had a buddy of mine go through the buyer section of it, and he listed my phone number for them to call me. And it ended up being a call center in India or some foreign country, which they have no power. They can't do anything. It's basically, I was transferred for like 3 or 4 people and nobody could help me. So that's kind of what happened with the Etsy situation. Unfortunately, I did send an appeal. I tried to email them several times. Basically, they said because I probably had around 8 to 9 delisted items that were considered weapons and not allowed to be sold. I think the communication as a whole could be better, you know? So I am no longer allowed to sell on Etsy. My shop is completely gone. That 4 or 5 years of having, in my opinion, an awesome shop. You know, obviously it's my stuff, so I think it's awesome. This is very crucial for me because this is how I make my living. I basically got fired from my job and have no other means of income. I have my own website, but it doesn't generate nearly the amount of traffic that Etsy does. And it was a pretty big blow for me. I'm going to have to go get a job, or at least a part-time job, until the YouTube channel takes off, and maybe I can make that my full-time thing, which we'll get into here in a second. But, you know, this being my most crucial part of the year, time of the year, November and December are like where I make the most of my money, and being halfway through December and being basically canceled, it hurts, you know, without really any explanation other than, hey, we deemed your shop as a weapons seller, so we're closing it down. You know, that at the end of the day, that's what it was. And it's just really disappointing. Etsy, if you're watching this, anybody from Etsy, I doubt you guys are watching. I'm just a cog in the machine. I don't make any difference, but I think you guys need to do better. You know, you need to step up. The fact that they only really care about the buyers, from what I'm seeing, is like they always promote this like, oh yeah, we want to promote the sellers, we want to do all this stuff, and then they have lack of, like, I don't feel like they have my back when it comes to stuff like this. Or like I have to communicate with them through email. I sent them 3 emails and they emailed me back saying, hey, our decision's final and we will no longer be responding to any of your emails, after 3 emails. And I was just trying to say, hey, can I have a phone number or somebody I can talk to? Because if I feel like I can explain it, I feel like it's not going to be this bad of a situation and it doesn't have to be permanently closed. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about the Etsy. I'm somebody who can pivot pretty easily and move on, but I did want to say my piece on that because I feel like I was done wrong, you know, and essentially fired from my job. And I just don't think it's right. Okay, so now that the bummer information is kind of all explained with the Etsy, we're gonna move forward, and that's kind of the last I'm gonna really talk about it with you guys, because again, I don't believe on dwelling on stuff. You can fight and fight and fight up until a certain point, and then you just kind of have to move on and pivot into something else, which is basically what the second part of this whole thing is going to be. Is I'm moving PMP Creations over to YouTube. Now, I'll still have my shop where I sell very limited 3D files, but I'm going to kind of turn into more of a STL file seller. And for those who don't know what STL files are, they're just basically the 3D models that you can buy and download and print yourself or make yourself. Because I think it'd be cool to kind of show you guys how I make stuff from start to finish. And if you want to take on the projects on your own, you already have a template to show you how it's done. There's a lot of creators out there who do similar stuff to that, and I've always kind of wanted to be one of those creators. Now, that's not going to be my only thing. I'm not just trying to sell you guys a whole bunch of STL files. There's also a lot of stuff that I want to make personally for me as an artist. So I won't be selling the files, or I won't be selling the items or anything like that. It'll just be for me, because I feel like I've given a lot of time and effort into making awesome nostalgic stuff for you guys over the past 5 years. But I really haven't made anything crazy for myself. There's been a few things here or there, but nothing really crazy. And I really want to flex my artistic skills. It might be boasting here or anything like that, but I think it's important to give yourself some props sometimes. And I really feel like I'm a talented artist, and I want to be able to give myself the opportunity to really shine and show you guys what I'm capable of, to find whatever my peak, whatever the height is of being an artist, whatever I envision, I want to achieve that, and I feel like I haven't yet. So that's kind of going to be what the channel is going to become. It's going to be a lot of me showing, documenting how I make certain items, coming on an adventure with me and making awesome art, either for yourself or just watching it and enjoying the content. So that's what's going to happen for 2025 and the foreseeable future. I have 2 videos I'm working on right now. Hopefully I can get them out here in the next week or 2. I'm also going to do, I've been asked by a ton of people from the STL files that I already have. People want to make them and sell them at conventions and stuff like that. So I will also be setting up a Patreon for you guys to, you can either do it monthly or yearly to buy and sell my files. Or if you just want stuff, you want a giant library of files, we can also do that too, where you can just, you don't have to sell them, you can just buy them and make them for yourself too. The shop's still staying, the YouTube's increasing, and it's just going to be an awesome year. I'm really excited. You know, I was already planning on doing this step going into 2025. I wanted to pivot into content creation because I really enjoy it with my Star Wars channel. So I wanted to do the same thing with this one. But yeah, I wasn't expecting to do it without Etsy. But you know, that's the thing about life, you know. And let me get philosophical on you for a second. You know, sometimes life just throws you some bullshit, and you just got to deal with it. You know, you just got to take it on the chin, and you got to keep moving forward. I think as human beings, that's like the most important thing, or one of the most important things, is just to be able to handle your shit. You know, if sometimes you can't control everything in life, and you just got to take it in stride and learn how to adapt and be maneuverable. So that's my TED Talk. That's it. I'm done. Thank you guys for watching the video, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace out.